this opens up for the community once again, really, like, go to town. If you could pick up a piece of armor or a trait or ability from any of these planets, like, this is when it starts getting real fun, creating creatures, weapons, and armor. Let's do it.
Welcome to the Starship Writers Room,
a podcast that gives you an up-close look at the creation of the Starship universe.
We talk new characters, hash out plot points, and imagine possibilities that are truly out of this world.
And which you might see featured in the Deploy Starship NFT game,
a play-to-earn cryptocurrency game set in outer space.
I'm Melanie, the Starship Lore Champion, and I'm joined by my co-hosts and fellow Starship Lore creators,
ShootyPewPew, your world builder,
and
Spazzitron of CryptoPhoenix.org.
Welcome to this week's installment of the Starship Writers Room. We're joined today by Melanie, our lore production manager, as well as me. I'm Shooty, your faithful co-host for our Starship Writers Room. This is where we allow you to be a fly on the wall as we discuss ideas, sometimes just spitballing, sometimes stuff that we've been working on for weeks. And as always, this presents for you, the listener, the opportunity to submit some lore and backstory ideas to us, to the team. So if you like, at lore@deploystarship.com, that's LORE at deploystarship.com. This week especially, this can be one that many of you may have been waiting for. We're going to discuss the NFT templates for weapons and armor. Real quick, unfortunately, our other co-host, Spazzitron from CryptoPhoenix.org, is unable to be here this week. So we'll miss him dearly. We'll welcome him back, and I can't wait to hear some of the story that he's been working on as well in our next session.
Yeah.
Melanie, it's really great to talk to you again.
Yes, good morning.
So as we've been talking for just a little bit, getting into it, talking about flavor text for NFTs, now I kind of want to shift base just a little bit and open it up into creature NFTs, not just the flavor text, but what do we want to talk about as far as what we might see on an NFT card?
So I definitely envision strengths and weaknesses, like little, just, maybe a few words. It's funny, I actually keep getting the image of the most recently produced Jumanji film with The Rock, and where like they hit his chest and then his little blurb comes up.
Yeah, right. My weakness is strength.
Yes, yeah. And no weaknesses. Something just like quick little blurbs like that are just a word. And then also, as you said, the flavor text, I really love that. Like a story excerpt, or even as you were explaining it earlier, I could see, for example, for the gas planet spider, we could actually have it from like the point of view of someone who is seeing the spiders approaching and like what they experience as it's approaching, which, would be our only perspective of that. And then I was also thinking about something like a little instructional note or just descriptive note of how that card could actually be played, or how it shows up in the game. If we have characteristics or uses that we also want to put in addition to the strengths and weaknesses. And then, maybe habitat, if it's a creature or a plant. Those are all the things that I'm thinking of.
Yeah. It's important as we're thinking up the NFT, when you say the creature or plant, their habitat, I think it's really important for us to remember that, like, we're not creating biomes, we're creating planets, so this plant can be living on a completely different part of the planet than this other plant. And they both fit within, the swamp planet or whatever it may be.
Mm-hmm.
Another important limitation I was looking at, so I have pulled up right now the flavor text that I wrote for our friend, the gas planet spider monstrosity, name TBD. And it occurs to me that with Pokemon, with Magic the Gathering, flavor text was always limited by what you could cram into that little box. But with NFTs, we can write a paragraph, we can write a sentence, we can make a bullet point list. With NFTs, we're accessing them electronically, so we don't have a limitation as much on what we write for flavor text, love that. Which is wonderful.
I could see it like we could have basically like a cover or something that looks more like a printed card. But then you can click on whatever, like if we have a line for the on the cover for the story excerpt, click on that, and then it like reveals a whole paragraph.
Or if we're getting really
dive deeper.
If we're getting really technical about it, we can hover over and just have a pop-up text. I don't know how to program that kind of stuff, but I assume it's not too terribly difficult.
But yeah, the game team, they're like snoozing while they do that. It's so easy for them.
So before we get a little too derailed, I want to read this flavor text for the spider monstrosity. Lurking within the ever-changing swirls of dense gases, this monster seeks its prey from a shroud of terror. At first, all you see as you float helplessly in the vapors of the planet are small wisps of barely held together tissue, like a newspaper thrown into a campfire. Then more and more. You reach out to touch one that trails nearby, and it evaporates completely. Suddenly you are surrounded, immersed in a dirty cobweb-like cloud of unused carbon. And if you're horribly unlucky, you'll see a long insect-like appendage the size of 2 football fields extend toward you, a spear-like harbinger of something far, far larger and more terrifying. If you don't die of shock first, you'll soon wish you had.
Ooh.
Flavor text.
Yes.
Right.
Totally.
And that's what made me think, like, we don't need to cram this into, 42 characters or a 3-sentence paragraph or anything.
Yeah. That's quite cool. It's, pretty freeing.
So, and when we're talking about creature NFT, even just getting into it, when we talk about strengths and weaknesses, what does that even mean? At this point, for the Deploy Starship or Starship NFT-based game, we don't have a lot of mechanics. It's deploy your ship, mine the planet or claim the planet, and then come on back. But you don't even have to click to come on back. It happens automatically. And so right now, as far as abilities, we are kind of at the forefront of expanding what this game is even like, what we just in a dream world even want this game to offer. Because right now, all of our functions have to be around Kyanite. Say we invented new resources or new weapon types, or again, like you said, creature types, if they're strong or weak, magma versus ocean versus glacier, then we're introducing the concept of combat, and that's a new thing. And so right now, all of our abilities kind of revolve around use this NFT ability to have more Kyanite, have less Kyanite, have a faster mining for your Kyanite, like a quick refuel of your ship for, so you get back to the space station faster. Honestly, in creating the NFTs, we're really creating a game. We're fleshing out what the game even is a little bit. So it's fun to have that playground, a wide open kind of blank sandbox. And for anybody who wants to submit lore, don't feel too boxed in already. We're certainly not at this point.
Mm-hmm.
A part of what inspired me this week has to do a little bit with Grandpa. Grandpa has become, he was part of helping me get onboarded, back in maybe back in November, December. If we're talking like what inspired me this week, anybody who's part of the Starship community right now, who's in Discord or Telegram, knows about Grandpa. Like he's so so present and being so wonderfully helpful. I think anybody who is playing this game, anybody who has a Grandpa NFT card, which we will undoubtedly have to create a really good Grandpa related NFT card. I think everybody's going to have a soft spot for this part of the development of the Starship game. You know, people who start playing 2 years from now may have no idea just how much Grandpa has done for all of us. So we're gonna make sure to write a very good NFT for him. And I'm not sure exactly when this podcast is going to get released. We have a production schedule and everything. And in line with whatever we're doing in Discord, I am personally planning a sort of an event, a community event where we design and write about and have drawings about designing Grandpa's Starship. So what objects might you find lying around? You know, that sort of thing. So details to come. We're going to release the community event later when all the planetary sale prices have gone back up a little, and when some of the hype is dying down around Funky Monkey Frat House and all of that. So when it's appropriate, we're going to have a really fun community lore event, and that might also introduce some ideas for NFTs within the game too, depending on what people submit.
Mm-hmm. That'll be really fun. Yeah, I think that's like, it's so fun to just like write in community or create in community and kind of be super loose, and very, very cool to kind of honor his contributions in that way.
Mm-hmm. Honestly, I don't even know his first name. Everybody just calls him Grandpa. And I'm like, all right.
Yeah. I think that is his first name.
Right. He was trying to be a Starship millionaire before he became a grandparent, and that didn't happen.
Oh.
I thought I think I saw that snippet somewhere. Maybe his bio in Telegram or something.
Mm-hmm. That's funny.
Would it be all right if I started talking about NFT weapons and armor and what we may have going on for this?
Yeah, that would be really good.
So this is a big opportunity for community sourcing, because I created a template that is a blank slate for kind of generating what we want to do. So weapons and armor kind of follow the same kind of blank template, that we're designing weapons based on planets and weapons based on the dominant races that you would find on those planets. So a couple, we'll call them racial weapons and armor, and we'll say 3 planetary based weapons or armor. So things you might find on a magma planet, or specific weapons or armor that you might find associated with, you know, the bat creatures of the swamp planet, who are kind of the dominant race there, or the Tauros on the magma planet, the blacksmith kind of race. With each planet, we'll say magma, for example, there would be 3 planetary weapons or armor to design, and 2 racial weapons and armor to design. So that right away, with 10 planets, gives us 5 weapons for each planet, or 5 sets of armor for each planet. That's 50. And if we add in the Earthlings, the humans, we are displaced, we have no planet, then, having 3 weapons and 3 armor each, that gives us quite a lot. That gives us 53 weapons and 53 armor to start the game with. The basic template that I was thinking was that we would have primary stats and secondary stats on every weapon and armor, and it's kind of introducing a little bit of choice when minting or generating your weapon or armor NFT, and then also a little bit of RNG to really feed that auction house and potential like swapping out abilities on a card. Getting ahead of myself a tiny bit. So if we think of the primary traits of, we'll say, a laser pistol, when you mint it, it's given one primary attribute. And we say we can choose that from a list of 3, for example, 3 primary attributes. So do you want a weapon that has more ammo or like a different type of ammo? Do you want a weapon that has a sight on it, like laser sights for more accuracy? Or do you want a weapon with a bigger stock or grip so that it has more handling? And so we have different primary abilities. Like if you chose ammo as your primary ability for the laser pistol, then that gives you kind of a bracket. And then you can mine or buy or discover new upgrades for your laser pistol to fit into your ammo bracket that you've chosen. Or maybe for your primary attribute, you chose sights. So maybe you have an iron sight that you find, and eventually you mint a laser sight. So you upgrade your weapon, you trade out your primary stat in that way. And so that was kind of an idea for primary stats. You get to choose one from a short list, and then you lock it in and you mint the NFT that way. And then as far as secondary stats, I was thinking we all create a pool of, for Earthling pistols or for Earthling weaponry, we have like 10 secondary stats. And then when you mint the NFT, 3 of those or 2 of those get generated onto your NFT, and that's what you get. Perhaps opportunity to visit a forge on the engineering base of a magma planet or something to trade out your secondary stats. But I was thinking secondary stats could be a little bit more fun. It could be cosmetic or add a smaller bonus or have specific, like, in the ocean world, a secondary trait might be something that helps you breathe underwater for longer if we're getting practical about it. Or a secondary trait in the Earthling armor set, a jetpack is an idea. So what about a secondary trait of like red flames or rainbow colored NFT flames? If we have an art team behind it, having the purple glue glowing kyanite jet fuel coming out of your jetpack, that might be an ultra rare NFT trait that could be, sell for $10,000 or something. So thank you for listening. That's the long version of sort of my idea for templates. A few primary traits to choose from, and you lock one in, and then a bunch of secondary traits that, you randomly get assigned 2 or 3 of those when you mint the weapon or armor.
I love that. That's so cool. Yeah, like really allows for everything to be very unique.
Very unique. If we're talking 1 million plus players, finding that one laser pistol, even just a silly laser pistol, it has the potential for being something very rare. And of course, we're at kind of the dreaming stage. Like, I just came up with this and I'm like, I think this would be great. I think this is something that could very easily be workable into the game. But like I said, there's 2 complications. One, is this even programmable as an NFT? Like, I don't know if the technology is caught up to the dream quite yet. And then, I know that, certain technologies like Altura, the cryptocurrency coin or crypto asset coin, Altura is an NFT technology that is working on that solution, being able to change a non-fungible token so that you don't have to burn it and create a brand new token. You don't have to completely burn the laser pistol. You just change it. And that's supposed to be the idea of an NFT, is that you're not supposed to be able to change it. And so Altura is just one technology that I know of that is in the works, but it's also very it's a micro cap. So it's in the super early stage. And I'm not invested in it, by the way. I'm not talking about it in those terms. It's just something I know about. That's a financial disclaimer, by the way. But this opens up for the community, once again, really go to town. If you could pick up a piece of armor or a trait or ability from any of these planets, this is when it starts getting real fun, creating creatures, weapons, and armor. Let's do it.
Yeah. What do you see yourself doing or holding on a metallic planet or the paradise planet?
Yeah, I
and
got real
let us
excited
know.
first. I got real excited for a second because I thought you were asking me. Like,
I mean, I'm asking everyone, and you happen to be here and able to answer in the moment. So what is your answer?
Well, I mentioned jetpacks for armor.
Mhm.
Like if the Earthlings have, 3 pieces of armor to choose from, then the basic idea would be something like this. Like starter piece of armor would be our spacesuit. That iconic like helmet that you see in the stickers in the NFT game. It could be just a basic spacesuit. Supplies +1 armor class and +2 defense or something. And then another armor NFT could be battle armor. Gives you upgraded accuracy, like +10 defense, +10 armor class, whatever that means at this point. And then a third armor NFT for the Earthling race could be the jetpack. When you think space travel, you think like, why not? Let's do jetpacks, And so Halo Reach did it, so we can do it too. And then for the Grasslands planet, a racial weapon I talked about in the very first podcast I got to be a part of. I think this was episode 2 for our writer's room. I talked about the race on the Grasslands planet that actually uses their throat and blow darts, like an explosive, percussive propulsion behind their blow darts. So they're like sniper rifles, essentially, or ballista, firing a tennis ball sized projectile. That sort of, blow dart type weapon could be a racial weapon that you find on the Grasslands planet. And, obviously you would have that weapon to use. It could be somehow uniquely useful against something on the Glacier planet or something on Metallic, or even you could pick up an ammo cartridge. So that could be, like I mentioned, ammo for the laser pistol. If you go to the Magma planet, you can forge magma bullets or a plasma launcher that is like a flamethrower that is especially good against, obviously, Glacier planet, or maybe even gas or swamp planet creatures. Really don't like magma bullets. So it opens up kind of the primary and secondary abilities, open up a lot of versatility of ideas. I would love to hear any just off the cuff or anything that you've been thinking about.
Something that I've been thinking about is, and I did mention it at some point in a previous episode, about a shield that is made of kyanite, and I think would be particularly useful on the Magma planet, where it's very easy to carry, and when someone attacks you with fire, it expands to encompass you completely. It actually reacts with the heat to protect you, so their fire weapon backfires. And
I love it.
Yeah, I think I was talking to Spazzitron about it, and he was like, it could even be like a pendant, like a piece of jewelry that you wear, and when you go into battle, it transforms into more of a shield. But yeah, definitely when he activates it, it protects you. So that's definitely something I can see on the Magma planet. And then in terms of weapons, on the Metallic planet, there's like the main villain is this Medusa-like creature. The reason I call her Medusa-like is because of her hair. So it's made of maybe a liquid metal or like electricity, like thunderbolts in a way. But she has this wild hair that she has some influence over, but it's really kind of got a mind of its own as well. I could see it kind of slashing and just being really dangerous. And that I was thinking of as a weapon. So that's obviously like a very specific weapon. So then I was kind of trying to back it up and be like, okay, like what is the foundation of this weapon that makes it kind of a common weapon, if that makes sense.
Yeah, how can we reduce it? I also like the idea of keeping it special, like maybe in the game you have to battle the metal Medusa herself, or maybe one of her sisters or daughters, to get this weapon that may actually be good against her. This is a very common thing in like World of Warcraft, that you have to actually fight the boss in order to get an RNG, random number generator, drop of a weapon or armor that is actually good against that boss.
Okay, I thought I was going to have to reduce it down, but yeah, I like it. I like that idea of like maybe it's like some kind of headpiece that actually serves as a weapon.
I've got our shared Conca site up right now, and I'm typing it in as you're saying it, so you don't have to worry about it.
Oh, thank you.
I'm sure it's already locked in.
That's so nice.
Right. It's just in a simple spot, but that exactly like you said, like we don't have to reduce these down. These can be really rare weapons. These can be boss type weapons, like a creature that you only fight once in the game. You know, I mean, if somebody's lucky enough, brave enough, escapes the odds enough, maybe we can even have some sort of weapon that is made of spider monstrosity parts from the gas planet.
Yeah.
Although that's like, I want that creature to be like sort of the, like, nobody wants to have anything to do with that creature. It's like the Resident Evil nemesis. Like, you really just want to spend the game getting away from that thing.
So does that mean there's no defeating it and that the success is getting away from it?
Right, exactly. That's what I mean. There's this thing is just like nobody, it's too scary. It's just like close the door. Nope. I think even oh man. So tell me more. Past our metal Medusa, do you have any more fun weapons or armor idea? You mentioned a necklace, perhaps, or a headpiece. And I'm sorry, I asked you a question and then I interrupt with my idea.
Keep going.
On the ocean planet, we talked about all the beings being psychic, because that's sort of the power of the Kyanite on ocean planets is psychic powered Kyanite. And so a mind dampener of some sort, an armor piece as itself that is just like the mind dampener. Here's a primary attribute. Bam. You get to choose it. You get to have it. Or a slightly weaker mind dampening secondary attribute on another piece of armor on the ocean planet, either a racial armor or a planetary armor, but like mind dampening as an RNG attribute that you can get secondary, or as a more powerful version, one that you can select. So you have the option, if you're wearing one piece of armor that doesn't have mind dampening, that you could get it from one of your secondary attributes on a different piece of armor, or however this is all going to play out. So when you said that in the metal Medusa, the metallic creatures have this psychic power as well, sort of a get in your head, read your thoughts and emotions kind of thing. So something like that would probably be a good primary or secondary attribute to have on the metallic planet as well. And what if you could only mine it from the ocean planet?
Oh yeah, that's really cool. Gets people moving, gives them incentive to explore, visit other planets. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. So for reals this time, I want to listen.
Okay.
And thank you.
I definitely mentioned this in another episode too. It might have even been like episode 0, where, the different uses of Kyanite and how I envision there to be a Rosetta Stone type Kyanite that allows us to overcome the differences in how we communicate with other species that we never would have encountered before. So when we're coming to the different planets, we have this device that allows us to communicate with each other. And I think that, it's obviously not necessarily a weapon, but it's definitely a tool that I think everybody is going to need, basically, to make their exploration and their collaborations, or even their, interactions with other species, even if they're not collaborative, possible.
Yeah. something that comes to mind, so we've got NFT creatures, we have NFT planet variants, we have NFT weapons, NFT armor. But you're right, we need just basic tools. If we're space travelers, we need some NFT tools that aren't a weapon or armor, that don't take up space in that part of our inventory. And if the grasslands planets, Kyanite power is communication, maybe that's a place where if you get some of this primary Kyanite or sort of Rosetta Stone Kyanite, maybe that's a place where you can forge it, or people go to grasslands planets, because I mentioned in kind of the story beat aspect, grasslands are sort of an idyllic, like simple place. It's sort of a starter place. It's like when you play Final Fantasy and you get out of Final Fantasy VII, you get out of Midgar for the first time. And the very next thing you do, you go to this quiet, idyllic kind of simpler town, and you just get to rest for a bit. And that's a common theme in a lot of JRPGs, especially. And so maybe if the grassland planets are most common, maybe that's where you go to get this communicator upgraded or even installed in the first place. But I really like that there's a tool, a simple, basic NFT tool idea that kind of makes everything go better.
Yeah, like we can actually, talk to each other. And then on the flip side of that, I see there maybe being attachments where you can exploit this tool. So on the metallic planet, Metal Medusa is so good at reading everything about you that, there's a conflict for that you think that you're using your Rosetta Stone to communicate with her. And then you go and you try to have a private conversation with your comrades without using that stone, obviously. You think she can't listen to you, but she actually understands everything. So I think there's like some kind of exploit or weapon where the benefits of the Rosetta Stone are undermined. And also there's something where potentially you can block someone's, well, I don't know if it's blocking their Rosetta Stone, but it's like blocking their ability to communicate. So when maybe if you're in battle with them, they're trying to give commands to their army, but their messages are just getting lost. So then there starts to be some chaos in their army because nobody knows what they're doing.
Yeah, the metallic planet, like even if we're thinking of Crystal as kind of like the rarest planet and maybe sort of an apex story beat, like where we go to as sort of an end game, I think metallic is going to emerge as the nastiest, most like hard to beat race or planet in this game. For that reason, like the insidiousness of being able to control and get into your thoughts and feelings. You don't know who to trust. You don't know at what point in the battle you look around and you're like, what the hell is going on? Why is that platoon, flying over this way? We told them to go this way, but suddenly they all got it in their idea, or just the commander. How that actually plays out is like NFT based abilities. Like I said, right now we just have mine's more Kyanite, mine's less Kyanite, but but we need to start like developing how these interact with each other, how these creatures or weapons or spaceship NFTs, how they fight together.
Yeah. And another one that I had, which I'm not super sure if it's basically a creature that exists on the metal planet, which is the willow power siphons. And I cannot remember if I talked about these yet, but they're basically these, they look like willow trees, except they're made out of metal parts. And they have like this glowing light in the trunk. And, it looks really peaceful and it kind of draws you in. Actually, what it is they are there to basically harvest the life force energy. So they will basically capture you, put you in a little pod underground, and you're basically plugged in to them, and they're feeding you this virtual reality or this simulation. I think they're feeding you a version of happiness, which is not real. And they're actually siphoning your life force energy or your willpower. So I could see, even though that's not necessarily a weapon in itself, it's just kind of a dangerous creature. I could see there being room for some weapons to fight these creatures, or armors to protect yourself from them, or even potentially like a copycat weapon that gives you the same abilities that they have. If for some reason you would want to, it reminds me actually of the wretch that Spazzitron is talking about, where she's been injected with Kyanite and she's used as a battery. So if for some reason you want to use this weapon, there could also be some kind of weapon that mimics the abilities of the Willow power siphons.
Yeah. I love, in our kind of coming up with NFT ideas, naturally, they extend from the creatures and the beings that you find in the universe. Like you said, like you get, it's like Mega Man. If you ever played that, you beat the boss, you beat Scissor Man and you get, or Cut Man, and you get the scissor ability, which is useful against, it's been too long, but useful against one of the other bosses. And that idea that you have to actually face some of the harder monsters. You have to face the Willow siphon to be able to get this incredibly powerful, Kyanite siphoning ability. Maybe it adds +5 Kyanite to your ship. That's an easy one to implement. Like I said, at this point in the game's development, some of the easier implementations will be around hindering or helping your mining of Kyanite, but a power siphon, that's a really fun ability.
So we've kind of covered a lot. Of course, we're not finished yet, and it would be great to hear from the community on this. So please let us know your submissions at lore@deploystarship.com. But Shooty, from what we've talked about, let's summarize what the templates are going to be, at least as a starting point. What do you see that as? Yeah,
so this is when it's really opening up a little more structure for community submissions. So for NFT weapons and armor, we're thinking of a system where there's primary attributes and secondary attributes, and also planetary-based armor and weapons, and also racially based. That means sort of the dominant race of that planet. So some of them we've already talked about a little, but so feel free to come up with ideas for weapons of any type and primary attributes, or some like stronger, more core attributes of a weapon, or even secondary attributes. And the secondary attributes is where you can really have a lot of fun. Colors, shapes, a drawing can be a submission to the lore development team, and same with, of course, armor. Like I said, it doesn't have to be just a steel chest plate. It can be something a little more fun, like a jetpack. And it can be just one attribute of armor, a certain crest from this type of race that is forgotten. And when you apply that to your armor, it gives you a bonus, so feel free to have fun, be creative with it. And then creatures, the wide world of all creatures you might encounter. And as we're saying, at this point, we don't have too much structure around how they're battling or how they're fighting. We're not necessarily doing a Pokemon style game. It's more you, the traveler, the starship space traveler, going to fight these creatures. So it's not creature fighting creature, but you fighting creature. And so go to town, have fun. And there is no urgency with this either. We're still in the good long, we've got months to explore these ideas.
Yeah. I think for me, what I'm going to focus on is the creature templates, and maybe adding some more tools. But I'm going to focus on going through the creatures that we have so far and seeing what are their strengths, their weaknesses. Is there already a little story blurb? Like basically just where are we? And yeah, let's see what it looks like when we have the first iteration of potential NFTs complete.
That's when it's exciting. We
the
can
whole
start
template. Yeah.
Start letting the game generate itself a little bit.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, that's going to be super fun. It already is. So, so do you want to share what you're looking forward to in the coming days?
The same thing as you. Creature generation. I've been cracking the spines on my old, if any of you out there who have kept old strategy guides, I have one of those original Final Fantasy VII. I have a Dragon Warrior 10 strategy guide. You look through the creature compendiums and some of them get a little cartoony, a little goofy. So this week I'm giving myself permission to not just be terrifying realistic creatures, but stuff like the slime, one of the most legendary Dragon Quest or Dragon Warrior creatures out there. The slime, little smiley face on a little Hershey Kiss looking blue drop of gel. Thinking up some more fun creatures as well as some more scary ones this week.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for your time today. And thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Starship Writers Room. We will see you guys next week.
Thank you all very much for your submissions to the Deploy Starship Writers Room. We have another submission by one of our community members, Dritz. He's been writing in about the saga of Wilbur. And in a recent podcast, we mentioned that we want to source a lot of community input into our crystal planets. We want to make them absolutely wonderful and special. So many community members have been sending in facts about different planets, different parts of the solar system. So Dritz sent in a bit to assist us in learning about crystal planets in general. Dritz quotes some articles. It says, a white dwarf is what main sequence stars like our sun become when they die. In the last stages of the stellar life cycle, a star burns off all the hydrogen in its core and balloons into a red giant star. It then collapses into itself, shrinking into a white dwarf, where all that's left is a hot, dense core, typically Earth-sized and half as massive as the sun. Because these compact stellar corpses are small and no longer have the nuclear fuel to radiate brightly, white dwarfs are very faint and difficult to detect. And then another little bit of information. The sun will likely turn into giant space crystals about the size of the Earth that will mark the spot where our solar system once was, quoted from a different article. And then the rock planet is made of diamond and is twice the size of Earth. This is quoting an article that talks about the Wizard of Oz's Emerald City actually exists. A year lasts 18 hours on this diamond planet whose surface reaches 3,900 degrees Fahrenheit. And emerald rainstorms contains a bright green mineral of a class called olivine, also known on Earth as peridot. So Dritz proposes he sees the crystal planets as all kinds of different types depending on the mass, the temperature, and luck, all determining the type of crystal planet that is made from these. So they're formed when the nuclear fuel is used up, so they would be very radioactive. And because of the violent ending that we have, red dwarfs, white dwarfs, crystal planets, they would be shattered and broken, these worlds without a sun, but still very hot from the radiation. They would also be a very dark place, of course. So this is a lot of creativity mixed in with some basic science about, quoted from articles about what this place might be like. So thank you very much, Dritz. Once again, loving your submissions. And this kind of lore is a part of what we want to build and add in. So all of you out there, lore at deploystarship.com, LORE at deploystarship.com. See you next week.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Starship Writers Room.
If you have an idea for the Starship lore, we would love to hear it, and you might even get a shout out on the pod.
Simply send to lore@deploystarship.com. That's LORE at deploystarship.com.
We hope you have a stellar day,
And we'll see you next week.